Hey everyone, so chalk up yet another win for the proponents of not just the Second Amendment in the United States, but the First Amendment as well. This in reference to a Wired article that is now pointing out the legal decision, the legal win by Cody Wilson and his business venture, Defense Distributed. You know Cody Wilson, the guy that's been out there constantly promoting and espousing how vehement and how dedicated he is to protecting the Americans' rights, not just to self-defense and to be armed as a means, as a deterrent towards tyranny, but that no matter what political edicts or political decree those in the ruling class of the day espouse, that nothing they say, nothing they do is going to stop those who promote individual rights and freedoms from implementing the means to make sure that that's a reality, not just today, but going forward. Listen to this article. Headline, folks. A landmark legal shift opens Pandora's box for DIY guns. Cody Wilson makes digital files that let anyone 3D print untraceable guns. The government tried to stop him. He sued and won. Kind of an important thing, even though, like I say, even though I'm not a big fan of government and the kind of political rhetoric that they espouse. But hey, as long as you have people that are willing to interpret those laws, those political edicts properly, right, that are actually entrenched in fundamental freedoms, inherent, inalienable rights and freedoms, as long as they determine and interpret those political edicts properly, because in reality when you're talking about government, it's just mandates by central planners or authorities, but as long as they're interpreted properly, like the U.S. Constitution says, you have the right to bear arms and it shall not be infringed. That's pretty simple, concise language that, yeah, you don't have to worry about some tyrannical government taking over and trying to fuck with you, because it's enshrined in your Constitution that, yeah, you can stand up in violent opposition if need be, if it has to come to that. And the First Amendment is that you are allowed to speak openly against it, and nobody should ever have any pretense of authority to deny you your right to speak. And you know what? What is code if not another form of language? You know, computer code, when you're writing code, right? You're just, it's language. But the language is for a computer. So if I, as a human being, am importing language into a computer, that's my right. You know, that's my freedom of speech as well. And that's what this legal decision acknowledges. So it's not just the fact that you have a right to bear arms, right, that should not be infringed in the U.S. It's the fact that you have a right to say what you got to say. And if what you have to say comes out and it's expressed in code, as long as it's not, once again, as long as it's not being used as a means to cause harm or inflict harm on other people, as long as your code is just expressing your freedoms that are enshrined in your Constitution, then of course it's completely legal and it should not be infringed, hindered, or harmed. This being reported by Andy Greenberg from Wired magazine. 5 years ago, 25-year-old radical libertarian Cody Wilson stood on a remote central Texas gun range and pulled the trigger on the world's first fully 3D printed gun. When, to his relief, his plastic invention fired a .380 caliber bullet into a berm of dirt without jamming or exploding in his hands, he drove back to Austin and uploaded the blueprints for the pistol to his website, defcad.com. He launched the site months earlier along with an anarchist video manifesto declaring that gun control would never be the same in an era when anyone can download and print their own firearm with a few clicks. In the days after the first test firing, his gun was downloaded more than 100,000 times. Wilson made the decision to go all in on the project, dropping out of law school at the University of Texas, as if to confirm his belief that technology superseded law. Right on. Oh, I love Cody Wilson, man. This is one of these young men that, yeah, he inspires me, even though he's a younger man than I am. But I love seeing a young man that has that much dedication to personal freedom, personal responsibility, and actual genuine liberty. God love this young man. The law caught up. Less than a week later, Wilson received a letter from the U.S. State Department demanding that he take down his printable gun blueprints or face prosecution for violating federal export controls. Under an obscure set of U.S. regulation known as the International Trade in Arms Regulations, ITAR, Wilson was accused of exporting weapons without a license, just as if he'd shipped his plastic gun to Mexico rather than put a digital version of it on the internet. He took defcad.com offline, but his lawyer warned him that he still potentially faced millions of dollars in fines and years in prison simply for having made the file available to overseas downloaders for a few days. I thought my life was over, Wilson said. Instead, Wilson has spent the last years on an unlikely project for an anarchist, not simply defying or skirting the law, but taking it to court and changing it. In doing so, he has now not only defeated a legal threat to his own highly controversial gunsmithing project, he may also have unlocked a new era of digital DIY gun making that further undermines gun control across the United States and the world. Another step towards Wilson's imagined future where anyone can make a deadly weapon at home with no government oversight. 2 months ago, the Department of Justice quietly offered Wilson a settlement to end a lawsuit he and a group of co-plaintiffs have pursued since 2015 against the United States government. Wilson and his team of lawyers focused their legal argument on a free speech claim. They point out that by forbidding Wilson from posting his 3D printable data, the State Department was not only violating his right to bear arms, but his right to freely share information. By blurring the line between a gun and a digital file, Wilson has also successfully blurred the lines between the Second Amendment and the First. If code is speech, the constitutional contradictions are evident, Wilson explained to Wired when he first launched the lawsuit in 2015. So what if this code is a gun? Anyways, I'll leave it up to you to read the rest of this article. It's a very long, extensive, and very well thought out and articulate article that covers many points. Like Wired Magazine, I got to say, you know, their contributors and those that put forth their articles, they're very well adept at dealing with these issues, seemingly mostly unbiased, and covering both sides of the issue enough that people will feel like their concerns have been raised, you know, the alarms have been raised, but covered enough, and the counter opinion or narrative or the rebuts against the concerns has also been shared. So I like I say, I have a great amount of respect for the people at Wired Magazine for putting out articles such as this and for giving Cody Wilson the platform, the venue to say what he's got to say without it being politically manipulated or distorted to the point where we don't even know what the fucking man's trying to say, right? I'm grateful for these people for doing this. So thank you once again, contributors and producers at Wired Magazine, and editors for that matter, for putting on this great article. And like I say, I really do recommend you read it. But I thank goodness for people like Cody Wilson. Like I say, yeah, you can espouse rhetoric. You can get out there and fucking protest and petition your government, basically, which is begging and pleading with authoritarians or tyrants. Please give me some freedom. Or you can do what Cody Wilson says. Hey, fuck you. I'm demanding my freedoms, and I'm going to make sure they exist, whether you like them or not. God love, like I say, for the... I don't know how many times I've said it in this video so far, but God love this young man for his willingness and his passion, his zeal and his courage to stand up for his conviction and to stand up for freedom and liberty, even though it can be very perilous and the potential dangers are there and they do exist. But he's like saying, just like me, I guess. He's got that same mentality, that libertarian mindset. So, well, I'd rather live on my feet than die on my knees. It's Cody Libertarian, and I love liberty.